Do you often find yourself confused about what foods to choose and how to stay healthy? There is so much conflicting information on nutrition that even the simplest concepts can easily be misunderstood, including what nutrition really is. In basic terms, nutrition is the study of food and the effects of food on the body. Today I'm going to talk about the food pyramids and how they're used in OIS, misleading nutritional claims, and my perspective on dietary guidelines, the true dietary guidelines. While government food pyramids used at OIS are the most universal nutritional resources, the data shows they are definitely flawed. Yes, the food pyramids you learn about in Cycle contain flaws. The old pyramid was recognized as flawed in 2005 and modified into a new one called My Pyramid, which unfortunately still contains errors. First, it recommends too much refined carbohydrates, or white bread and processed sugars, which can clog arteries and lead to diabetes and heart disease. Second, it recommends too much dairy, which in reduced amounts can be beneficial, but in these doses adds too much extra fat to your diet with no nutritional benefit. Finally, it fails to differentiate between good and bad fats. Yes, some fats are actually good for you, and most people need to eat more of them. Sometimes you'll see misleading, puzzling, or incomplete nutritional claims, and it's hard to figure out what is true. One piece of puzzling advice is that nutritionists are now saying that alcohol is good for you. While this is somewhat true, there are restrictions to it. 1 drink a day, particularly of red wine, can contribute to the prevention of heart disease. However, there is too much of a risk involved for children, adolescents, pregnant women, people unable to limit their drinking, people on medications, and people about to do an involved task such as driving. Another concept that is not widely accepted is that coffee and some caffeinated beverages are healthy. This is true in moderation, and the only side effects are that it can keep people up for hours on end and can become a healthy addiction. Sometimes you'll see misleading claims such as 0 grams trans fat and think, oh, it must have none. But in this case, you would be wrong. Probably the worst scandal in the history of nutrition is this, and it's out there now. 0 grams trans fat. The government has said that a company can say 0 grams trans fat if per serving the food has less than half a gram. While it might seem insignificant, official serving sizes are way too small, and it's easy to have more than one. When this deadly fat builds up, it can have horrible consequences for your health. The only way to know for sure if there's any trans fat in the product is to read the ingredients list. No, not the nutrition facts, but the ingredients, often purposely hidden by companies, and looking them over for this, hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated, with some oil coming after it. This list shows all things in the product from greatest to least. The higher up you see a bad item, the worse the food is. Another thing to note about the ingredients list is its huge product evaluating potential. If you see an ingredient list with more than a few things you don't understand, with strange scientific names, you should probably avoid it. The most important things in USDA nutrition are the dietary guidelines, which set the standard for all of USDA's nutrition policy. So wouldn't it make sense for them to have a companion? This companion could be the true dietary guidelines, made by Evan Kubinger. The first thing in these guidelines is to eat more good carbohydrates. Fruits, vegetables, legumes, and whole grains all contain these good carbohydrates. When choosing good carbohydrate-rich foods, consider also foods with a large amount of fiber. The second thing you should do is limit the bad carbohydrates you consume. Sugary foods, foods with a lot of refined grains, and salty snack foods should all be limited. The third thing that should be done is that people should eat more good fats. Fish, nuts, olive oil, and canola oil are all good sources of these good fats. Good fats are any of the unsaturated kind. When choosing good fat-rich foods, consider also foods without any artificial sweeteners. The fourth thing you should do is eat less bad fats. This includes animal fat and junky snack foods. Bad fats are mostly of saturated kind. The fifth thing is to keep most everything you eat as natural as possible. As one nutritionist said, eat lots of foods that will spoil or rot, but eat them before they do. The sixth thing is to completely exclude 2 things from your diet: trans fat, and any carcinogen or cancer-causing food, such as nitrates, used to preserve meat. The final thing people should do is eat moderate portions. Excessive calorie consumption, calorie being a unit used to measure energy in food, can lead to obesity, which can have dire consequences, especially in children. The way to fend this off is by exercising and being more active. There's a lot more to say about childhood obesity, though. Being obese as a child can have horrible repercussions when you are an adult. There's a fundamental difference between what a child's body does with excess fat and what an adult's body does. Children make fat cells, while adults can only store fat in already made cells. While still growing, you will make fat cells, and there's no limit to how many you can store. So there's no limit to how fat you can be. After you have stopped growing and are now an adult, there is a limit to how fat you can get. This is because when an adult has excess fat, it goes into the already made cells, and only so much fat can be stored in every fat cell. If there is no more room in the fat cells that you made as a child, the new adult fat will just get discarded. There are many examples out there of good nutritional advice and bad, but to find the best advice, you need to stack everything up against scientific evidence. Now you know what the cutting edge of nutrition is today. You can better understand misleading claims. You are familiar with Evan Huebinger's True Dietary Guidelines, and you know why it is valuable to try to hold off obesity as a child. But imagine what it will be like in the world of the future. Will new scientific breakthroughs emerge to change everything you now know? Will the new food pyramids also be flawed? Who knows? The best we can do right now is to follow what we do know and try to keep our bodies healthy.
Woo! Yeah. I have a question.
Okay, questions? Yeah?
What are legumes?
Legumes are mostly beans